Last week I was retightening the rivets that hold the shear strake on. Now they go right through the frame heads and out the other side of the shear clamp. They actually hold the shear clamp up into position. Now the only problem we had was it pulled the rivet head right through the shear strake and up against the frame head. Well, that's not the way we wanted it, but it did give me a great idea. I'd like to only fasten the frame heads to the shear clamp because that leaves the shear strake removable. And that'd be a great idea because they could get beat up at some point, but when you remove the shear strakes, it leaves the shear clamp too mobile and the boat seems like it's going to fall apart a little bit, not good. So we decided what we would do was drill a hole 3/8 of an inch right through the shear clamp and out the back and all the way up to the frame head, and then we're going to drop a washer down between the frame head and the shear clamp or the shear strake stuck to a piece of tape, and we're going to put the rivet through the washer up against the frame head and rivet it in place. And what that's going to do is, like I said, leave the shear strake removable, and that's a great thing. So we've got our tools, we've got a drill and an awl to remove the plug, and we've got our rivets and rows, and we're going to show you how it's done. Now, I've got the covering board off the starboard side of this little 12.5, and it's exposed quite a few problems here. I've retightened some of the rivets at the frame heads here up forward, midships area, and I'm working my way back aft here. Now, the boat's already been reframed, and it's got new rivets through between the shear plank and the shear clamp. So they're just not tight enough. So what happens here is it's got mobility. The shear clamp is moving all over the place with the comb. It's just not tight enough, you know, and it's just really that they weren't able to buck the rivets properly. They weren't able to get it tight enough. We can't leave it this way and put the covering board back on. It just would be a crime. So we're here with the covering board off. We're going to address these issues. We're going to buck these rivet heads all by myself here, squeeze this thing up nice and tight, make it come out right. Now this is how we're going to back up the head of the rivet when we pound on the other end. We're going to use this little bolt right here and slip it into the hole. Now this bolt on the head has got some texture right here, the lettering, and that lettering's to our advantage because it's going to lock right into this file right here so it doesn't slide around. Now that whole thing I'm going to slide right into the hole, push that up against the rivet head like that, and then I'm going to put a spring clamp on this end of it like so. Then I'm going to move down here and put another spring clamp down here like that. I'm going to put a couple of C-clamps on here, one aft of the rivet, and just tighten that up just a little bit. Now I'm going to put another one forward of the rivet and tighten that one up a little bit. Now those two clamps are holding the whole situation together. They're holding the rivet head down tightly into the shear plank. Now I'm going to squeeze this C-clamp and push the whole thing together, and you can see the rove pop right up out of the hole here. Now that thing's 1/4 of an inch too long, that rivet. I'm going to move that rove back and retighten the rivet. I'm using a pair of right-angled dikes here to cut the rivet off. Now it leaves the end of the rivet a little pointed, so I'm going to pick up a file and file the end of the rivet down a little bit square and closer to the rove. Now I'm going to pick up a piece of lead here, and I'm going to use this piece of lead to push up against the file, which is pushing against the bolt, which is pushing against the rivet head. Then I'm going to take a ball-peen hammer and strike the rivet where it sticks out past the rove and mushroom it over the rove. Now we're going to remove the C-clamps and get those out of the way, and then we're going to move on to remove the spring clamps here and take the file and the bolt out of position, and you can see that when we've unclamped it, there's hardly any movement in that whatsoever. We've tightened that rivet up really tight. We're going to move down to the next one and accomplish every one of them on the port and the starboard side, and it'll be taken care of.